Father, we invite you here to join us for this testimony to you and your Son, our true Father, the second coming of Christ, the return of Jesus, the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings. We are so grateful that you called us and stayed with us all through our lives, Father, that we could have so many wonderful, precious memories. And we want to share a few of those this evening. Pray your blessing upon this gathering and those here, that you can help me, inspire me, Father, to share the things that really can help those who are here and those who may listen later on in time, Father, that through the videotape this could be an inspirational record of some of the times that I had with our true Father and with you, Father. We thank you, and please again bless this time and all those here. I pray in the name of Jim and Hiromi Stevens, a blessed Central family. Jew. Well, I came up with a theme for my testimony, and the theme is, it's not about you. Many years ago, I read a book by, what was his name? Warren. Rick Warren, who built a huge church in California called the Saddleback Church. He wrote a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. And when I started reading that book, the very first line is, "It's not about you." And he went on to talk about how it's really about God, and it's about the Messiah, and all you can do to connect with them and be a part of what they're doing is your merit. What you think all the advertising today is, you deserve it, go get what you deserve. And it's not about that at all. So I have many times wanted to deflect any kind of responsibility or praise that comes my way. I kind of think that's one of the reasons I made it to where I am right now. Let me start back when I was in college. I was an engineer. I studied engineering at Northwestern University, and I went this program called Cooperative Education, where you would go to work for 3 or 6 months in industry, come back and go to school. So it took an extra year to go through college, but I earned a lot of money doing it. But I also learned I didn't really want to be an engineer, to live the kind of life that they were living. And so I wanted to be happy. That was my goal in life, to find happiness. And so I hitchhiked out to California, and I knew people from college living all along the way, so I could stop and see friends and everything. And I had a couple of friends in summer school at the University of Berkeley, so I decided I would go see them. And I distinctly remember sitting on the bus riding from, I guess it was from San Francisco over to Berkeley, and sitting on the bus, said, I don't know what stop to get off at. So I'll just go all the way past the campus and walk back across the campus to their dormitory where they were staying. And lo and behold, there on Sproul Plaza was Poppy Ritchie. And I had a beard and a backpack. I remember from the corner of my eye seeing her come at me. And she showed me this poster of "Come to the Ideal City Project." I thought, oh, sounds good. So I went over for dinner. I heard the elephant lecture, and decided, okay, I'll go for your weekend workshop. It was good. It was nice. I didn't have any particular revelations during that time, and I actually decided to leave and go back down to Los Angeles. But it was in Los Angeles. I was hitchhiking. I had some very bad experiences. One guy stopped his pickup truck and he said, "Hop in the back, I'll give you a ride." I had my foot up in the air. I was ready to get in the back of his pickup truck and he pulled away. And so I remember looking up at the sky. There was a full moon, and I said, "I don't know if you're up there or not, but I'm going to go back and move in." And so I hitchhiked back up to Berkeley, and I arrived, I think it was Sunday night or Monday morning, and I told him I was going to move in. So Poppy took us out to I don't remember, it was an ice cream parlor. And we got what was called a hodgepodge. It was about this big, and it had a scoop of every kind of ice cream that they had. It was huge. And there was 6 or 7 of us sitting around, and Poppy made a rule: you can't feed yourself. So, anyway, I didn't actually hear the divine principle until after that. And I went to evening lectures. Noah Ross taught principle of creation, and when I heard the nature of God, it totally it was like, I already know this is absolutely true. If only somebody had told me this before, I could accept God, I could believe in God. So for me, that was like absolutely convincing. So the other experience I had with the principle my first time through was the Jesus lecture, because I had tried to be good all my life and do good things, and I'd always gotten persecution and stuff. So when I heard what happened to Jesus, I was so hurt inside and so blown away that it was true. This is really what happened. And everybody was having dinner and having a good time. I couldn't eat my dinner. I was like, so I didn't have any trouble with the principle. It just all was true for me. It was something like, I already knew this. And then after the conclusion, my thought was, well, if this guy's in Korea, let's go find him. So, right. And then I was in the brother's bedroom, and one of the guys who was a guest or something, "I just can't believe Reverend Moon's the Messiah." And there was a picture of Father there on the dresser. I go, "Oh, we already found him." Great. So, it can go on and on. A lot of stories. I went out after about 5 months. I was asked to go on a One World Crusade team, IOWC team. So I went to Colorado and I fundraised and did all kinds of things around Colorado, Texas, New Mexico, and then went to the Madison Square Garden campaign. So I joined in '73. This was '74 in September. We were staying in some hotel, I don't know, 14th floor, 20th floor, some old rickety hotel. And Father would come, many mornings Father would come and share and talk. So we had lots of experiences, but it was so new to me. I couldn't really feel close to Father in those times. But I do remember going out trying to give out tickets to Madison Square Garden. People spit on us. Yeah, it was quite something. We had, and then right after that, I got sent to MFT. So I fundraised all over Texas and Louisiana, and California, and then I was at a Divine Principle workshop, and they said, "Okay, everybody who has a college degree, we want you to fill out an application and send in your picture because Father's starting a seminary." So I did that, and I was selected to be in the first class at Berrytown. And there was 50 of us or so, and we didn't know what we were doing there. We had no idea. We kept saying, "Father, please come. Why are we here?" You know, because I was sleeping like 5 or 6 hours a night when I was fundraising. But when you're trying to read and study and stuff, you're falling asleep all the time. And I felt like, you know, I'll read a whole book and I'll get one divine principle thought out of this book. It was pretty. So, but Father did not come. It was 2 years. It was almost. The whole first year he never came, and the second year, half the second year, he never came. And he came one time. One of the Japanese brothers who liked to go fishing was down by the lagoon, and he saw a bunch of koi, goldfish kind of, that somebody had thrown in the Hudson River, and they were all coming in to eat. And so they were in this little inlet. And so he was so like, wow, they were all, you know, just beautiful colors and stuff like that. So they told Father about it the next time he came. So he came down there and he wanted to catch them. So we got 2 volleyball nets and put them together, and we kind of seined to the end. And we caught a whole bunch of colored ones and some big carp. Right. So Father was so excited. And so the next day he came back and he opened the trunk of his limousine, and the whole thing was full of nets. Big, you know, fishing nets. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of this, but he wanted to catch every single fish in that lagoon. And he had designed a trap. So there was, from both sides of the lagoon, and then there was a trap in the middle where the fish would have to go like this, and they'd go inside and they'd get caught. Right, so this was like March. I think it was, I don't know, it was freezing cold, whatever it was. So they picked the tallest people, and I was one of them. So we had to go out there. And, I mean, we spent days putting meticulously. Father would just over and over show us how to tie the weights on the bottom of the net and tie the floats on the top. He had all these corks. We had to go ever so far. We had to tie another one. And he showed us over and over again. My claim to fame is one time I was holding the rope when he was cutting, and he cut my finger. So he kind of looked up at me, and then he looked away. And I didn't do anything. It wasn't a deep cut, but it was bloodshed. But so we were out there. Our job was to be on each corner of this trap that he had created, and stake it in the ground with these wings, so that all the fish, they couldn't get out anywhere, so they would end up going in the trap and getting caught. Well, we were out there, and we started too late, and the tide was coming in. The tide goes like 6 feet almost in the lagoon. So after a while, we're treading water and trying to get this. Oh, it was cold. It was cold. I mean, there was one time, there was a bonfire as tall as me, and they gave me a cup of hot chocolate. I spilled the whole thing. We were so cold. But that time, we were in the water a long time because we had to try and get those stakes down, and we could not get it all down. I couldn't get mine in. Father was going around in a boat with Gerhard and Matsuzaki, and I reported that I didn't get my stake in. And Father screamed at me in English, "Why did you do that?" Believe me, I felt like I had messed up the providence forever. When Father yells at you, it's like all of heaven and earth is coming down on your head. But at the same time, I felt, oh, he loves me so much. It was like an amazing feeling. And it actually, all the fish escaped. They didn't, because there was a big stump. And it turned out when the tide went down, we found that there was a stump, and they all got out. Right, the net was on top of one of the stumps. So So Father changed his strategy after that. Because there was a train track, there was a river, then there's a train track that went there, and then the lagoon. And the water would come under there were 3 bridges. The water would come under the bridges and fill up the lagoon. All the fish would come in to feed, right? Then when the water starts going down, all the fish would leave. So Father said, okay, when at low tide, we'll go around and we'll put all the stakes in, and then at high tide, we'll go around and put the net on all of the stakes. So we completely encircle the bridges, so no fish in the lagoon can get out. They're all trapped by that. And that worked. Hundreds, maybe thousands of fish we caught. And there's pictures of people just wallowing around in the mud and catching these huge carp and stuff like that. They're just crawling in. It's very, very muddy. You'd sink this deep in the mud. It was just... That was an experience. Father, he came almost regularly after that. And for just a few weeks there, I think we did that, I think, 10 times with he would bring up different groups from New York Church, state leaders, he'd bring all kinds of people. Just for that experience, it was incredible. And he would come up other times, and nobody would know he was there. It's like maybe a few of us would hear about it. I remember going up, he sat on a hill and looked over, just observing the forest or something. He was sitting on it, and he took off his pants. He had on the Korean white underwear, the long ones. But I'm there going, I don't want to make Ham's mistake here. He just sat there. He was totally, in his world, just talking, and he carries the weight of the world. I just had no idea. I was 2 years in the church. One more experience from then. When Father would come, everybody follow Father. All the students, we followed him one time walking down to the river, and I was walking right behind him, and I saw this pimple on his neck. I think, oh, maybe he's not perfect after all. I didn't know what to think. But we all got down to the river, and then word came that the professors were upset because there were no students in their classes. So the word came, and Father said, okay, everybody got to go to class. But I wasn't there when he said it. I had gone off to run some errand, and I was on my way back to the river, and all the students were going to class, and they kept saying, Father said you have to go to class. I said, I know. I kept right on going. I thought, Messiah's down there on the river. I'm not going to class. And when I got there, I just kind of tried to hide, I just don't want to be here. And Father looked right at me, and he looked away, and he didn't say anything. So yes. That was a long time ago. That was 1977. Some memories really stay with you. I remember a couple other experiences. One time, Father came to speak to a 120-day training that was there, and he was up on the stage, and I was sick. I had a sore throat. I felt like, I'm really catching the flu or something. And but I went to Father's speech, and I sat there the whole time, and I really felt like I was having give and take with Father. And when it was over, nothing. I was healed. I thought, wow. Nothing. You're real serious. I had a sore throat, and it was gone. It was gone. Another time, I remember, Father came, and we were in the classroom upstairs, and he was talking about something. He was talking how you have to create a 5-year plan for your life, and a 10-year plan for your life, and a 20-year plan for your life. And I think I'm going, yeah, right. I don't have to do that. You're going to tell me what my mission is, right? And he looked right at me and he said, you probably think I'm going to tell you what your mission is. The rest of you. So I think Father can read minds too sometimes, or he reads faces. I don't know. And at the end, after graduation, he came to speak to all of us. And one thing he said, really, he said, "I'm going to pray to God that he makes you suffer." He was sending all of us to MFT. He said, "You're the first class. We have to set the tradition. So you all go to MFT, and you can't get off of MFT until you have $150 a day average." But he gave us all states. He did that thing on the board where you go down like this and zigzag. And so we all had a state where we were going to be state leaders. But you couldn't go there. You had 6-month condition. If you average $150 a day, you could go to your state or something like that. But I think some suffered more than others. I didn't suffer. I had experience on MFT, so I knew what it was like. So I was a state leader in Kansas. And Kansas had quite a history as a state. During the Civil War, Kansas was divided. It was called Bleeding Kansas. So half was north and half belonged to the south. I really experienced that in the spiritual world in Kansas. It was really something. We used to go to see Father about once a month. He would call us in and have a state leaders meeting. And he would tell us all kinds of things. A really good friend of mine from the seminary was Bento Leal, if you know him. So he and I always used to sit together and try and be in the front row, right in front of Father. So there was one time in Belvedere, the library, and Father was going on and on about how you have to do things in life that are memorable experiences. So don't just live a uneventful life. Do things, exciting things, so you have a good movie in the end. And he was sitting in a chair, and Bento and I were sitting right in front of him. We were sitting so close that when Father got excited and spit came out of his mouth, it landed on our notebooks or it landed on us. You know? So we'd circle the spit and we'd write it in our notebook. But as he was talking about that, he came over and he grabbed our heads and he slammed them together. So like suddenly, I was like looking at him, bam! And when they say see stars, it was these little these things that were moving around, and he sat back down. He says, "There's an experience you will remember for the rest of your life." He was incredible. Of course, we had lots of experience as state leaders. What else? Where should I go to? I did so many things. After that, I went to 120-day training. And then I was in the education department. I became staff for the Youth Seminar on World Religions, if you know what that is. I went around the world twice with we had 120 young people, 20 to 30 years old, from all the different religions of the world. It was an amazingly deep experience. We'd start out at Barrytown, and then we went to Israel, we went to Rome, we went to Istanbul, we studied in India, Nepal, China. We went to China. We got to go to Beijing. We got to go to all these places. And it was like Father gave people such incredible opportunity. The vision for the Youth Seminar on World Religions was that they invited all the professors that they knew to send their young people from all the religions of the world. So the top Catholic young people, the top Jewish young people, Muslim young people, all of them, the future leaders of their religion, would join together and become friends. So in the future, they would know each other and we could create peace on earth. It was like incredible vision Father had. And it was so many tears were shed when that trip was over each year. It was just amazing. it morphed into, what was it called after that? After 4 years, they realized that people were doing a tour more than they were actually getting to know each other, because they weren't working side by side with each other. So they changed it into projects where the same kind of group would get together, but they would work in a building houses or something for communities. Yeah, a religious youth service. That's right. That's what that became. And from there, I was picked up to be the director of the ICC conferences, where Father was in Danbury, and Father had this, I don't know if it was a revelation, but the story that came was that just like Elijah, when Elijah went and hid in a cave and complained to God that there's nobody that is faithful, and God said there are 7,000 people, faithful people out there. So Father, we're going to bring 7,000 ministers to Korea to study the divine principle, Korea and Japan. And so it seemed like every other week I was flying back and forth, Japan, Korea, America, Korea, America. I think I counted 43 times I made that trip. And it kind of messed up my digestive system for a while, because it's, when you arrive over there, you know, it's time for dinner, and you feel sleepy, right? So, whatever it was really. Now, of course, going to Korea, so many experiences. Father came only one time to talk to the ministers, and I heard that his reflection after being there and talking to the ministers, he came on number 4. He never came after that. I think he was very disappointed in American ministers. But that was a time when Hunjanim had just passed away, and so we were able to take our members up to the Wanjan. So we had at number 10, we started having spiritual experiences with Hunjanim from spiritual world and Jesus. So there was a tremendous number of experiences. Let me tell one experience with Father. After Father got out of Danbury, he came back to Korea, and I was invited to Father's house at Hanamdong to share about the ICC. And I remember Father was sitting at the head of the table, and Dr. Pak was sitting there, and I was sitting next to Dr. Pak. Trying, you know, they were asking me questions, and I felt that I'm on the top of the world. Because Father's foundation after Danbury, I felt like, just became universal. He was so high up that he, in a way, embraced the whole world. And I'm sitting there going, what am I doing here? He told me, after a while, he said, you have to shake up Christianity. Me? Oh, gosh. I don't know how much we shook up Christianity there. You know, I always felt that we didn't connect with Jesus the way we should have. If we had really connected to Jesus like the second king is doing, all this would be entirely different. You know, that was, I don't know, it was a mistake, or it was just the people just didn't know how to do it, or what all happened. There were many, those who came who had a Christian testimony, who Jesus led to our movement. And if they, you know, if we had really built on that, so much more, I feel, the spiritual world could have been mobilized. After ICC conferences, I went to 40-day training under Reverend An, and you know, he lived with Father in the church there in Korea for 20 years or something like that. And used to teach the 40-day training. It was amazing. His content. So, he used to go down to the Deli Sun restaurant there on the corner and eat breakfast almost every day. But everybody was afraid of him, I think, so nobody would sit with him. You know, he's a 36 couple. People were like intimidated, I think. I'd go down, I'd sit with him. I'm amazed at myself, but I would ask him questions, and he was so open to sharing. It's hard for. I always felt so much younger, so much immature. You know, the stupid questions I might have, or whatever I could think of, is not anything compared to the depth of these people who were with Father in the early days. And but I just would sometimes just sit with him. We wouldn't even talk. But it was just so special to be around people like that. Then after that, I was appointed the state leader in Northern California, in Berkeley. So we went out there. By that time, we had 4.5 kids. Our fifth one was born out there. 1990. And after almost 2 years there, the hometown Providence kind of got started. And it was, Father had a state leaders meeting, and then while everybody was traveling back home, the Koreans and the everybody, all the leaders were going back home, the word came out from Zinmun Kim, everyone has to go to hometown. So it was like Father gave that direction while the leaders were in transit, so they could not interfere with the direction. That's what I felt like. Right? And he pushed it. He pushed hard. You know, everybody just go to hometown. And most leaders did not go to hometown. But I was giving a workshop. I felt I was responsible to tell the members to go to hometown. So I had a workshop or seminar. And I got up there and I lectured that you have to go to hometown. And the voice says, "Are you going to hometown? You're the leader." So after a while, I packed up my family and went to hometown. My hometown is Bloomington, Illinois, right in the middle of the state. And I remember going to Chicago to meet the Korean leader for the region to tell him I was coming there. And he says, "Oh yeah, we're all ready for you. You can be the state leader and you can be in Chicago. And we have a place for your family in Rockford," which is 90 miles away.
I got arrested there.
And then I went to my hometown, and my cousin just welcomed me with open arms, gave me a place to stay. We talked until all hours of the night. What an embrace I got from him. And we had already been through the situation with our oldest daughter when the direction came to put your child in the nursery and go fundraising. And we separated from our oldest child for several months until she got so sick we had to take her back. And from that point on, we were never going to separate from our children again. I put them through enough. And it was just such a difference of night and day between my welcome in my hometown and that church. I knew what that was like. So we actually went to hometown. I decided, so I go to Bloomington, Illinois. My cousin was the president of a bank, and he helped me get a foreclosed property where we could rent. We stayed there 9 years. 9 years. And people thought we left the church. We occasionally get letters, can you send money? That kind of thing. And then around 99, Father called all the seminary graduates to a conference at East Garden. And in the course of that conference, he said, I want all you seminary graduates to move to the East Coast to help support the Providence. I don't remember what it was. So in 2000, we packed up and moved to Maryland, D.C. area. And I started a job working for Able Business Services, which was a employee leasing company that leased employees to the church to help, with salaries and stuff. So we, being in D.C., much closer to the headquarters church and stuff like that, and it came time for matching, and the word went out that now the parents have to match their own kids. Because we've been preparing our kids to be matched by Father, but now Providence has changed, so we have to match our own kids. So I remember attending this meeting at the church where they explained how this was going to happen, how they were going to help us. And I walked out of there and I said, nope. You're not matching my kids. Because it was one of those things like, they're already totally overwhelmed and exhausted in the missions that they have as church leaders. And now you added a burden of they're going to try and match. So at that point, I started a website to help matching candidates. And bcmatching.com, I think it was. And it was the only game in town, actually, because the church was so slow getting things going. And lots of people put up their pictures, and I took no responsibility except, I created some forms and stuff. You put up your kids. You have to vet. I'm not doing any vetting. It's none of this church control completely. If you like that candidate, you communicate, and you decide if they're pure or whatever you care about. That was my rule. Individual responsibility. So, and that's kind of been a principle that I really related to all my life as well. That, in the end, I believe that around 20 matches took place through my website. And there were many spiritual experiences people had. There was one couple that sent an email to another couple, and it never got there, but this couple had sent an email back to them. Interesting. And they thought they were responding to their email, but they weren't. So many. I mean, people had spiritual experiences looking at pictures on that website. But then I caught the attention of the Continental director from that. And I admit my attitude in creating the website was somewhat of a Cain attitude because I didn't want the church involved, really. And Father had even said, I think this is parents' responsibility. The church should not be doing matchings. Right? But there were Koreans always trying, I'm sure Japanese, people were trying to do matchings for other people. So I got interviewed because Father had been telling them, you need a blessed family department. A year later, is there a blessed family department? No, there wasn't one yet. A year goes by, is there a blessed family department? So we eventually volunteered to part-time head up the Blessed Family Department. But I absolutely said, I'm not doing this without my wife. You know, and I know in the church there was nothing but basically men leaders, but there were no couples anywhere doing anything. It was revolutionary that a couple would, at that time. And so, but it was so obvious in the Blessed Family Department, a man should not be running the Blessed Family Department, really, by himself, certainly. So we did that. We had many, many incredible experiences. Putting on the blessing. You know, the deepest things I remember are the opportunities I had to teach the value of the indemnity stick, or the value of the blessing, the value of the holy wine ceremony. Because I got to read Father's words about these things in preparation. I got to pray about it. And I realized most of us understand such an insignificant depth of what Father's doing. But I was so blessed again and again and again because of that mission, and because it was so internal to the church leader's position, you know. For example, the indemnity stick ceremony is so valuable. It's not for us. We're not beating each other for our own benefit. Well, who wins? What is this for anyway? It was for our ancestors. And I just, in my prayer, I realized, you know, each of us has female ancestors who were abused, raped, so mistreated. We have male ancestors, maybe murder, violence, everything, all this. And those people who suffered so much in their lives, the thing they want, really, is the blessing. How could we deserve, in looking at them, how do we deserve to be blessed? What did we do, you know? No matter how long you're in the church, you can't merit the blessing. There's no way. Especially compared to the sufferings and the terrible suffering of some of our ancestors. So as a condition, we offer ourselves to be beaten, to show them our heart, and that they will forgive us, and they'll help us, because they could cause serious trouble in our marriages if they interfered in a negative way, right? So that I had the opportunity to teach a whole group of new people, almost. I mean, new members almost, who were getting the blessing, and couples. And you know, they were all gonna. People told them, "Oh, don't worry about it. You just tap a little bit. It's okay." But after I told them that, everybody really hit hard. So I thought, yep, it works. This is when you understand what you're doing, you can do it. You can go through anything. So the value of our lives, we never understand. We don't know who we are. We don't know what we're doing. Most of the time, it was just, you know, this whole idea of giving testimonies. I realize it's so significant in the future. Right now, it seems like I got too many other things to do, too other priorities. But I'm really grateful that you offered me this opportunity. I'm grateful you're doing this. I think it's really valuable for the sake of history, and that, you know, I really am out of time. But my testimony to the second king is like, what a man to take on Father's job, and he's just like. You can see him almost every day growing into Father's image. Father's spirit, Father's nature is here with us still. And that it is so few of us. We're bozos. But we're here. And, you know, all your names will go down in history. So, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for letting me share. Let me say a prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we cannot thank you enough. All we can do is continue to offer every moment of our lives as best we can to you, to our true Father, to Jesus, to our second King, that we have such precious moments here on earth that there's nothing that we could do more valuable than to offer ourselves for your providence and to save this world. We know that you love us so much beyond what we can even understand. Your grace on us is unbelievable. So much. We wish there were so many more here, and that so many could have understood better about the second King and about it, what true Father really was like on this earth. Heavenly Father, guide each of us as we go from here. And we can become better and better and better at supporting the second King and helping others to come through making the gate wider and wider, Father, for the coming of your kingdom on this earth. We thank you again. I pray in the name of Jim and Hiromi Stevens, the Blessed Central family. Jim. Thank you, guys.